I think even for a job or a small business or a tech business, I think we need to be super clear on what exactly our motivations are. Uh, they could change over time. You know, what exactly motivates you, what keeps you going, could change over time. Uh, your mission could evolve into a bigger one or a more narrowly focused one. But I think the first question which we need to ask ourselves is why exactly we are doing this.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we help startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Anurag Kamal, and that's as close as I'm going to get to pronouncing it correctly. So Anurag started his journey with getting a degree in mechanical engineering, and then went to work for a subsidiary of Volvo. Worked on emissions industry and propulsion, and then switched over, worked on the early version of the electric truck. Found out batteries are hard, which I think everybody finds out that gets into the electrical vehicle industry, and then came over to Michigan Tech to further study in batteries and vehicles. Worked for BMW of North America. Then they wanted him to move over to Germany. He didn't want to move, so he left BMW, went over to Oak Ridge National Labs, worked on their battery systems for cars, and then founded a business related to electrical vehicles. Moved to California, focused on the business. It's been doing some fundraising as well as continuing to grow the business. And with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast.
Thanks a lot for having me here, Devin, and thanks
Hey,
for this
my
kind intro as
pleasure.
well.
No, excited to have you on. So I just gave the 30-second version of a much longer journey. And so let's unpack that a bit. Tell us a little bit about how your journey got started earning your electrical engineering degree, or sorry, mechanical engineering degree.
Yeah, it's uh, during my bachelor's, I was when I was doing my mechanical engineering bachelor's, I was pretty focused on automotive systems. So uh, just courses like IC engines, internal combustion engines, braking systems, automotive control systems was kind of my focus. And I zone into basically the propulsion systems, that is engine, drivetrain, wheels, and braking.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's what I used to do back in India for the Volvo subsidiary, where I was building control systems for a new type of transmission. And that's how organically went into building EVs. But when I was here at my master's, when I did my mechanical engineering master's, most of my courses were actually electrical. Actually, I didn't take any course which was just mechanical. Like there were many courses which is offered both by ME and EE, mechanical and electrical together. So most of my courses were electrical because what I was learning about was controls of batteries, electric motors, controls of electric motors, a little bit of power machinery,
Hmm.
obviously HEV. So yeah, it's
Now,
I would
now
say I
one
kind of
question
have
on that,
everything.
because you went to get your master's or that, did you start working for Volvo and emissions and that before the master's and then you decided to go back, or did you just go straight through before you started getting into the automotive industry?
Yeah, no, I worked for 2.5 years in India before I came to Michigan Tech. Um, so yeah, I already had the experience, but I was always into automotive industry. I'm still
Hmm.
here. It started basically at school when I was a part of the racing team. That was an off-road racing team in which we used to build ATVs, wow, I don't even remember ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, to just like race on a dirt track. It was a competition which happened every year.
Well, cool. No, and we'll definitely get to that, but let's rewind just a bit. So before you came to Michigan Tech, because I think what, if I remember in our conversations, a little bit of what spurred going into Michigan Tech and studying batteries and vehicles was earlier on when you were or started out working with or working for a subsidiary of Volvo. You got into emissions and propulsions, and then worked over into the electrical truck or the electric truck or an early version of that. So kind of tell us a little bit, how did you kind of coming out get into vehicles and get into kind of that working on batteries and electrical vehicles before you came to Michigan Tech?
Yeah, so organically, the way it developed was in Volvo Eicher, the subsidiary, there was a division called Advanced Powertrain Systems, in which uh, the precursor to that vertical was the conventional, or the way it was called was just legacy systems. So it used to be whatever engines are being made, what was the transmission which is coupled with it, and how exactly is the prop shaft which drives the wheels.
Hmm.
But my role was how to automate this process. When I joined the company, the project which was having the most attention was to automate this whole process, so that you don't have to manually shift the gears. So like introducing automatic transfer in trucks, and obviously the focus was much more on fuel efficiency because you want to make sure that your trucks are going much longer on the same fuel. So that is what I was like working with a third party developer to develop, like Vapco was the company. So basically on how exactly you map out engine's performance based on how user is driving to make sure that you get most range out of the oil. So it required working on control systems, fuzzy logic, basically just mapping out and mapping out user behavior with what should be the automated behavior of the vehicle itself.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like the most futuristic thing which was going on. So when the company's board decided they wanted to build an electric vehicle, that is when it was very natural that the project came to me, because that was the most advanced division which there was in automating the existing powertrain. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I did not have to start from scratch because there are like so many partnerships which we had to work with. There was a vendor for battery, there was a vendor for the whole chassis to be developed and integrated with motors. So just basically working with them, I found it very exciting that so many limitations which we were seeing on conventional vehicles are not there in electric, especially that they can generate energy back without like with minimal effort, you know. So
Hmm.
I got into more and more into this space. I liked motors, and then I figured out that motors, drivetrain, everything was pretty much like it was doing pretty good in terms of maturity of the systems. They were already like 95%, 96% efficient. Obviously, Tesla is cutting barriers into like, making them even more efficient, but the most work was supposed to be done into batteries, right? We don't know anything about batteries, the catch on fire. It's like so difficult to like control them. So that is why I thought it would be a good idea to choose batteries as my subject for my master's.
So now I say, okay, batteries is a good area, which I agree. And I think that, working in, I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of different electronics, not in the automotive industry, but, wearables and some of those others. And battery is always one of those where you're always trying to squeeze out as much power, get as much efficiency, and make them work as long as possible, because everybody wants the battery to run as long as possible and gives you a competitive edge, especially in vehicles. If you don't have a good battery, you're not going to go very far. So now as you're saying, okay, going into Michigan, going to get your master's, going to Michigan Tech, you come out, so you go get that degree, studying a lot in batteries and vehicles. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, is you're coming out of school, then you went to work for BMW of North America. Is that right?
Yeah, and that was quite the serendipity because I was doing a master's in a very niche field. I wrote my thesis on making the existing predictive model of batteries much more complex. That is, I just added more and more mathematical equations on a set of equation, which is already very complex. So just technical fact, back in 1990s, this professor called Newman at UC Berkeley defined this something called porous electrode theory, like 3-4 set of equations, which basically define how batteries work internally. It's basically physical equations which you can define how batteries work. But those equations did not have these corrections. As batteries get old, they lose capacity, they gain age. So this set of equations did not capture how batteries age over time and how exactly these equations need to be modified, right? So that is what I did during my master's. I added these equations to modify the existing set of equations that this is how this ages, right? And I did a lot of literature research and accumulated research of like multiple researchers to do that. But I was just like, okay, where would I find my next job? Especially this is very complex. It's very difficult to prove out this model works well because there is lack of data, and then you can't really simulate such a difficult set of equations. It's a completely different area of research on how exactly to break down those set of equations to something manageable by our computer processors. So I didn't know where did I'd go, but apparently BMW was looking for somebody exactly like me because they were in process of changing the existing electrical model which existed for the i3,
Mhm.
the BMW i3 which existed. So BMW i3 before used to use equivalent circuit models, that is just like a series of resistors and capacitors, and to like figure out that how batteries will behave. So you collect that data, you run a simulation in which what should be the value of this RC circuits, and you just like fit those variables to make a prediction. But if that's not improving over time, then the predictions are gonna keep getting wrong. So that is why they were looking for somebody like this to like incorporate this new aging behaviors, and they found me. It was a great job for me. So I ended up at BMW working on those systems, which is pretty amazing because BMW had so many resources, because as a
Mhm.
student, you don't have like access to data, you don't have access to like testing data. Like first data is like internal physical parameters data, right? How exactly is the electrode, what is the composition, what is the particle size, there's so many details. But with BMW, I had like so much leverage, man. You just go and send an email to a supplier, they will reply back. You ask for somebody for some specific data set. Like there was so much leverage at BMW as compared to like being a student when nobody replies to you. So that was a great change, but I was able to like go and do some great work with like informed data sets there. Yeah.
Hmm. No, and that's awesome. And it is always a difference shifting gears from, hey, I'm the poor student that I can barely afford to be able to do anything, to going to a company that has a lot of resources and a lot of ability. And I think that's always a fun switch. So, and how long did you work at the BMW branch there?
So I was there at two different roles. It was roughly an year and 3 months total. I was there at the Mountain View office. Yeah.
Awesome. So now you're there for a period of time, and now I think if I remember when we chatted before, they came to you and said, "Hey, we'd like you to move over to Germany and work in that division or kind of make that switch." And you're saying, I don't think I want to move over to Germany. That doesn't sound of interest." Is that about right?
Yeah. So to be honest, I would like kill for that job like 2 years before in my life, being in Munich, working directly at the head offices at BMW, which is a racetrack on top. If you don't know that, it will be like a dream come true, like few years back. So I definitely wanted to like take that job. It's just I was really making a lot of headway in the Silicon Valley clean tech ecosystem. I had like so many connections, friends who were building companies as well, and I knew I wanted to do that as well. So going away from somewhere I was already at, which I wanted to do, did not seem like a good idea at that point.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, that is why I made this choice, and I basically asked them to like just give me an offer to be physically based here so that I could commute or do something like that. But I think it was very critical for company for an engineer who's supposed to do such critical work to be based there so that they can work very closely. So it did not pan out at that time. Yeah.
So now you say, okay, doesn't pan out, not gonna, or you don't want to move to Germany, want to stay or base where you're at, and that. So you went, I think, from that point, you went and worked over at Oak Ridge National Labs. Is that right?
It was actually 6 months later because I did continue at BMW at a different role during that time. So when I get that offer, I like, why don't you give me guys give me an offer here in Mountain View? And they're like, oh, that's not happening. So I was just like still in dicey phases. So but BMW, there are other divisions who like took me on as well. I continued that internship role which I had in the beginning as well, but it was with a completely different division. It was IT. innovations division. But what interested me was they were working on this project of quantum computing, working with MIT and some researchers at Rigetti, I think.
Hmm.
Oh no, Rigetti was no, no, Rigetti was who I like brought them in. But so basically, quantum. There was a project going on quantum computing on what exactly is the use case which we can employ with quantum computing right now, and we just like boiled directly down to what I was doing with the battery research because even if at BMW we had so much leverage to get data from suppliers on what exactly different parameters for a physical model of a battery would be, it was still a very long iterative process in which you actually decide that this chemistry will work. You actually assemble it, like manufacture those chemicals. You put them together on an assembly line, and then actually build a battery to test this, which
Hmm.
is a very long design cycle as compared to if you could just like on a computer make a prediction on how exactly this chemistry will behave uh, before you actually manufacture it. That's a distant dream. It's still not realized yet, but that was the dream at BMW. And
Hmm.
that was a project we started pursuing that how can we employ quantum simulations and use quantum computing for those quantum simulations to predict some specific parameters of a battery, which is like reaction rate coefficient, diffusion coefficient. These are some specific inherent parameters of the battery which basically dictate how battery will behave and how
Hmm.
exactly it will age. So that is why I was like, oh, let's take this job. I will get to work on something fancy as quantum computing, even if I'm not a physicist. So I was like, yeah, this sounds great. So I worked another 6 months on that job
So now you were
before.
there for their 6 months, and now help me because I think after as you were working on that job, that kind of led to founding your business or founding a
Exactly.
related business. So it's an electric cars, and that kind of brings you to a bit of the business where you're at today. So kind of how did you get into you sounds like it was an interesting job. You got to work on quantum computing as related to the industry you've been in, and sounded interesting. So how did you kind of come up with the idea or decide to make the leap and start to pursue your own business?
Yeah. So uh, definitely like because there was a background context in my mind that I do want to build something in this space. There's so much opportunity. So I obviously had this context going on in my mind, but it was not like I had to do it now. Uh, but like when I was working on quantum computing, I got super interested, got a lot to learn for the next 2 3 months. But then I used to like get audiences with these professors at MIT who are like teaching quantum computing, right? And I could sit down with them and ask them this question point blank that how many years do you think our vision or our goal will be realized, right? And then they were like, oh, we're 5 years away, we're 10 years away, maybe 15, we don't know, like which is shortening down. I know like there's much advances happening at quantum computing right now at much accelerated pace as we know our like
Hmm.
our civilization is doing that. But like when I used to hear that is we are 10 years away into this like something meaningful to like do a simulation, I did not want to be sitting and waiting in my 20s to do that. Like maybe at some point of time it'd be a interesting prospect. That is my backup plan, that in case like I'm John, like we had the incredible success with our business and
Hmm.
I am having my midlife crisis, then I'll go pursue a physics PhD where I could work on a quantum computing system and technologies, but like I thought that this was not the time really to like dictate and like just like wait for it, especially when it's not my skill set. I'm not a physicist, so I cannot do contribution on like research scale. I can do contribution on like its scaling, like when the tools have been built. So that is when I ended up at a hackathon in San Francisco where I pitched my idea. It was the same time when I was transitioning to a full-time role at BMW. Uh, uh, is I went and pitched this idea over a weekend, and it was a 72-hour hackathon in which you present a case study and pitch it, and we ended up winning that competition. So, and I ended up making a team after pitching the idea. We made a team of 4 people. We won, and then after we won, there was like, yes, let's do this. Like everybody was on board, and we did it under join an incubator. and the company started basically. So and then as company started and I transitioned into a full-time role at BMW, I thought this role was not really working. So and I got another offer. So we started the company. So like multiple things are happening at the same time. This is December 2020. Oh, and pandemic is also hitting. It's the exact time when pandemic is starting, right? December 2020 to February 2020. I just got a full-time job at BMW starting in December 2020. January, February, I'm trying to like figure out if this is something which I want to do. The hackathon also happened in December 2020. So things are picking up because everybody's like, let's do this, right? So we're starting the company. We're trying to like get a role. Like BMW, I was not sure if I was going to do this job, and Oak Ridge had given me another offer to work with like the fast charging systems. So I was
Mm,
like, okay, this company is starting. Maybe it's 6 to 8 months out when we actually have to jump full time on it. I already know what exactly is the industry's outlook towards fast charging. Why didn't I go see it in the national lab space on what exactly is going on in that environment? So I was like, okay, let me just go to this Oak Ridge National Lab. I will like work for 6 to 8 months. I'll prioritize my projects like that, and I'll come back to just like build this business with all this perspective which I learned. So I moved to Tennessee, and then pandemic hit, and then we had to work from home. Uh, so and then obviously my engagement at the lab was decreased a little bit because the most projects which I was supposed to work on were in person because I had to go to the lab, do the testing, generate that data sets, and like fit it, and actually work on supercomputer as well. The world's biggest supercomputer, I guess, in US's biggest supercomputer is in Oak Ridge National Lab. At least it was at that time, at the summit. So I used to actually get supercompute cluster time to work on it. It was just so exciting, but the lab closed down. So then I just had more hours to put into the startup.
Now,
So
and so now with that, kind of give us an idea, give the audience an idea, where is the startup, kind of today, or I guess how long ago did the startup get going, and kind of what's that journey? Where is it at today, and kind of how have you guys progressed?
yeah, so uh, by the end of the year, 20. Okay, I think I might have confused. Like December 2019 is when the hackathon happened, not 2020.
Mm,
January 2020 was when like the pandemic was hitting, and I switched to my new job March. So by December 2020, uh, uh, I actually while during my stint at Oak Ridge National Lab, I ended up actually relocating because my brother was living here in California and was work from home. So I basically came to California for a short amount of time, which basically extended into a full time stay because I quit my job in November. So November 2020 is when I quit my job at Oak Ridge National Lab to start full time at Electric Fish, and uh, February 2020 was when my company employed me for the first employee of the company. And then June 2021. Okay, I'm just confused with time. Like February 2021 is when the company
lots
hired me.
lots of date or timelines
Yeah,
to remember.
yeah, yeah. Like February 2021 is when my company hired me for the first time, and June 2021 is when we raised our first round of funding. So it was 6 months after I quit my job is when we secured our first round of funding. It was 400,000 at a
Mm,
4.5 million post money valuation. Um, and then we built our first unit, did another round in December 2021. And then currently we are currently closing our seed. It has 7 million seed right now. We stand at 4 full-time people and 3 contractors right now. And with this seed, we will grow to up to 16 people strong by December, uh, with being able to mm, reach production maturity for our units to be built like one every year,
mm.
one every day.
No, that's that. I think that's awesome. It sounds like you guys have you got the company going. You were the first employee on board. You've been able to continue to get investors in, continue to bring on the team, and continue to build things out. So it sounds like an exciting trajectory. So with that, now as it kind of brings us up to the present day, it's always a great time to transition to the two questions I always ask at the end of each episode. So the first, or jumping to those now, the first question I always ask is, Along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? What'd you learn from it?
So I pondered a lot on this question. I do not know if I have a direct answer to this. A lot of things are hanging right now because like our business is still unfolding, right? So we have taken some decisions which might look bad in the short term, but would be good in long term, or just maybe look good in short term and are bad in long term.
Hmm.
Uh, which One thing which I would say is like worse. It's not really as worst business decision, but basically, uh, it just at times we have or I have uh, under um, um, underestimated what a value of a person could be, and overestimated value of some people as well, right?
Hmm.
Like it's not just like a person's what is his status in the society, as in what exactly his title is, matters as much as how much he's interested in helping your business, right? So let's say a mayor of a city, how helpful he is to your business just because he's incredibly connected to the political ecosystem and all the mayors in the regions where you and I deploy, or a person who is probably just like a CEO at an early stage company, or maybe just an angel investor, but he is actively involved in building a business. He thinks about it, right? And he goes ahead to like make those introductions. So I think judging people on what exactly is the value they bring and compensating them exactly right is super important. Uh, and you never know who brings what. It just mostly there's definitely a level of serendipity in which how exactly our early stage businesses evolve and just like make most of opportunities around us. But definitely a passion of an individual towards your uh, passion of your individuals like how excited they are in the business should be considered as a topmost priority as compared to their titles and having them around as a part of your company.
No, I think, and I think the thing you hit on is, it is always hard to make sure that you get the correct valuation of, do you have the right team members? Are they worthwhile to bring on? And, sometimes it's not even a knock against the team members. It may be, hey, this person is a great individual, they're very connected, but they're too expensive to our company, or it's too early on and there isn't going to be anything for them to do, or hey, this person is just not a hard worker, but they're very qualified, but they don't like our culture, and kind of weighing it all or making that determination as to who to bring on board, when to bring them on board, and how that matters, I think has a big impact on the business. But it is one of those that's always fraught with a lot of mistakes and a lot of trial and error to figure out how to build that right culture and those right teammates. So I think that's a great, easy mistake to make, but a great one to learn from. Second question I always ask is, now, if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you should give them?
So uh, the uh, the best way to put it is, um, I think even for a job or a small business or a tech business, I think we need to be super clear on what exactly our motivations are. Uh, they could change over time. You know, what exactly motivates you, what keeps you going, could change over time. Uh, your mission could evolve into a bigger one, or a more narrowly focused one. But I think the first question which we need to ask ourselves is why exactly we are doing this. Generally, a material, what I have learned is that a material expectation that we're gonna like make a bunch of money, or we'll become financially independent, as is put by some specific like books or whatever,
Mm.
is I don't know if that's really is the motivation. You know, like what motivates you should be something different than material. It should be like you just like it just I don't know how exactly to put it. As I said, it's just like when I feel about trying to change the like how exactly the electricity could exist right now, like when I think about how big of an impact which we can have, and just like I like working with people, I like working with my team is what motivates me, you know. So it's just like what exactly motivates you will help you get through all the challenges, because definitely the path is tough most of the time. So like not most of the times, but at least 50% of the times I'm just like looking in the sky and thinking that, wow, what am I doing, you know? And the rest of the times I'll be like, I know what am I doing, and it's going great. So that healthy dose of what motivates you is needs to be super sound if you want to keep going for the long run.
No, and I think that one, I don't think money's a bad thing. I think everybody wants to have a successful business, for the startup or the small business or the even or someday hopefully the large business makes a lot of money. But I think to your point is that can't be your your sole motivation or your main driver, because you're going to wear out, because money is much contrary to what you sometimes hear see on TV or the movies. It's not going to be the sustaining thing that gets you through and makes it so, or keeps you in for the long run. Because I think if you're to look at money, when you're in the hard time, you're saying, hey, I could really go get a job with somebody else. I could go, there's other ways that I can earn money, and that's not going to be keep you motivated. But if you really love it, enjoy it, and passionate about it, I think that that's what's going to keep driving you. So I think that's definitely a great takeaway. Well, now as we wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, so obviously you can go to our website, hello@electricfish.co. Email does reach a lot of people in the company, so it just generally funnels the way out to me. Otherwise, the right stakeholders in the company, or if you want to directly email me, that's my initials, AK Anurag Kamal @electricfish.co. So you guys can just directly email me, whoever wants to reach out. Definitely, we are closing our seed round right now. I think tentatively we plan to close it by the end of July. So definitely there is room for investors to come in.
Awesome. I definitely encourage everybody to reach out, connect up, whether it's an investor looking to make a great investment, or an employee looking to work for a great company, or somebody that's looking for the next best friend. All great opportunities. And so with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been it's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners, if you have your own journey to tell and you'd like to be a guest on the Inventive Journey, just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, and leave us a review. So we want to make sure that everyone finds out about all these awesome journeys. And last but not least, if you ever need help with your patents, your trademarks, or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin.
And before now, I almost messed up. We're ending, but if you haven't already logged off, we do have the bonus section. We're going to talk about the one crazy entrepreneurial idea, and I almost missed it. And yet it's one of my favorite sections of the podcast. So hopefully everybody has stayed tuned. And if you have, we're going to dive to that now. And so it's always fun to shift gears just a bit. And so if you're anything like me, you always have kind of that one crazy idea, or one idea that you always think you might someday pursue, or that someday you think it sounds challenging or fun, and it's always in that someday pile. And sometimes you actually get to, and other times it's always that one idea that never you quite get to, but it's always something that you hold on to. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you, or to tell us a little bit, what is your one crazy entrepreneurial idea?
Yeah, so I think if you just ask idea, there are like a bunch. I guess I already mentioned that physics PhD, and then like I definitely have some ideas on what exactly needs to be done in terms of like our travel. It's like space travel. I think a lot about it, but entrepreneurially, what I think I would do down the line, or at least if I have that capital or connections, will try to fund a company which try to do that, is trying to clean up developing countries in terms of like removing plastic, different kind of wastes, which are just littered. I'm originally from India, and then just the user behavior is that you do not have like garbage cans right anywhere. You just like throw everything outside, and it just everything which could look super beautiful, it just like has like heaps of crap like everywhere. It just I need to like figure out what exactly is a sustainable business model to actually fix this problem, not just with grants and funding, but like just make it a plausible business model on how exactly you can keep cleaning it up and keep scaling that business, because there is a lot of stuff to clean in developing countries. Yeah.
No, I think that what you hit on, and it is now is figuring out how you would turn that idea. Because I think that if you can figure out, not just a non-for-profit or a charitable business, and which definitely have a place, but if you can make a business case for how do you actually say cleaning up, trash, garbage, plastic, and those type of things, and make it a business case, make it profitable or otherwise make it sustainable, then you're going to crack that nut. And so I think that there's definitely that opportunity. And as soon as you figure out how to crack that nut and how you're going to go about doing that, I think I definitely want to be on on that train with you on the crazy idea, because I think it'd be a very impactful. So with that, thank you again for sharing your one crazy idea. Thank you again for coming on the podcast, and I'll wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Jevin. Thank you for having me.